Are you ready for a retro riptide? Here's your look at the brand new McFarlane toys. Superpowers Aquaman. Half human, half Atlantean, Arthur Curry is Aquaman, the King of Atlantis, and defender of Earth's vast oceans. As a founding member of the Justice League, he also protects the surface world from forces of evil. Just before we check out the friend of the fishies, let's go ahead and grab first the tape measure and see how tall Aquaman stands. And while I'm doing this as well, I'd like to thank the folks once again over at McFarlane Toys that did provide the sample of Aquaman that we could have a look in this review. Aquaman in this case stands about 4 3/4 of an inch in height, or the figure is going to be about 12 centimeters tall. Well, Superman's stopping a volcano from erupting, so we're not going to be able to bring him in for comparisons, but at least let's start the league off by comparing Curry with the Cape Crusader. I was very surprised, in fact, to kind of see that Aquaman wasn't the same size as Batman. I would have just assumed that they would have made all the figures about the same size. And I guess that's actually a good thing, too, the fact that they're not making all the figures the exact same molds carried from one to the other. While it may look like there's some similar types of molds being used from maybe like the torso standpoint of things, it's clearly a case that Aquaman is a lot taller than Bruce. And to compare some of the other figures also as well, that doesn't seem to be changing either. Here's what the figure looks like with the Flash. Here's what the figure, though, looks like with John Stewart. Recently, we just looked at the Robin. This is specifically the Tim Drake Robin, so we'll bring him in for comparisons. And even though she will be bringing back in, I'll be bringing her back in for comparison a little bit later on. Here's also what she looks like. Here's what Arthur Curry looks like compared originally with the first released Wonder Woman. Originally, why I did say we're going to be bringing her back, because we, for some reason, did get a second version of Wonder Woman that's slightly a little bit more classic of colors, and she's also sporting different color cape as well. Marking the first time for this wave that a figure comes included with an accessory, as Aquaman comes included with his trusty trident. The trident, I suppose, is supposed to be more of a matte gold finish. It sort of does look a little washed out. It actually kind of looks like undercooked or uncooked pasta. Either way, though, it can be wielded in his hand. He only actually has one selected hand to do that. The other hand, actually, if we pick the figure up right now, looks as if he's supposed to be sort of swimming. That's my guess, at least. We're going to go ahead and take the trident for right now. That looks like it's uncooked pasta, and we're just going to slide it into Aquaman's hand. And it does make the figure look so much more like Aquaman. I like the really use of the trident. I'm glad, like in the case where we had not gotten it with both Batman and Robin, at least Aquaman can go ahead and tout the fact that he does come included with an accessory. So I like that he actually has that. Let's just take the trident out of his hand for right now and get a closer look at Aquaman. He does really have more classic-looking Aquaman costume here. More the familiar scaly orange top that he has, the green trunks. Of course, he has little fins there on the back of the legs there also as well. And he's also sporting the green gloves. The only thing that's a little bit different from an Aquaman standpoint is the fact that this one does have longer hair and a beard. I did kind of wonder why we didn't get ourselves more a shorter-haired Aquaman. Now, I know we did get an original Aquaman back in the 80s that would have, in fact, had, the shorter hair and would have had a shaved face. So I guess they did want to maybe separate the two. And more Aquaman nowadays seems to be having longer hair and a beard. Although there are still exceptions to that rule where there are Aquaman circulating around, swimming around the watery depths, still sporting a shorter hairstyle. But I kind of actually like the way that they've given him a longer hairstyle this time around. The beard's been painted well, sort of more of a darker gold than the coloring of his hair. I like the sculpting of his face overall. Now, the thing about it, though, is because he does have longer hair, it's going to cause a little more problems, but maybe not as much as Wonder Woman when it comes to rotating the head all the way around. He does clear at least his shoulders, so at least that's something. Of course, the limitations of the articulation on these figures goes without saying. He only has it only in the head, the shoulders, and again, the legs and the knees. And talk more about that in a moment. But I do think that the colors are handled well here for Aquaman. The thing, though, about it, though, is it seems like his torso has likely been molded in a different plastic altogether than maybe his arms. Feeling it also as well, it's clearly smoother here and a little coarser here, leading me to believe that they probably would have painted the arms, which is kind of strange. I would have thought that it would have been making more sense to maybe, if anything, paint the gloves and leave behind the plastic of the orange. Because again, like the orange, being that it's just so much, there's so much more of it, I just figured it would be making more sense. But it does feel like maybe the gloves are probably plastic, or at least the molding of the plastic, and they went in and painted the arms. If that's the case, it seems strange that they would have chose that as the color to paint and leave behind the coloring of his gloves. Other than maybe not matching the oranges up altogether, clearly not the case at all. I do think like it's a well painted figure. The coloring of the collar, is actually kind of more of the matching colors of the gold that he has for the belt down below. He has a very small A, though he's asking that you don't draw too much attention to it. I think I would have gone for a little bit larger of an A on his belt buckle, but at least they actually took the time to sculpt it in there. And of course his lower legs, the lower legs do feel still that sort of coarser kind of plastic, nowhere near the smoothness that he has of the upper torso. But it looks to be the case that they probably still have molded this in green plastic. But what's rather strange, though, pardon me while I draw everyone's attention to his crotch here for a second, the crotch is a smoother plastic, and it also seems to be a darker green. So maybe if that's the case, they probably would have gone and painted the legs, or maybe they just had used a different molding of plastic. I don't know what the case is, but it clearly seems to be the case. Like his legs are a little bit more rougher of a plastic, nowhere near as smooth as it is on his lower groin, and nowhere near as smooth as he maybe has in his torso. So it kind of has a little bit of breakup the way they actually molded some of the plastic. It does look good, though. He does have little fins there on the back, of course, of his legs, and he has, like all the cases before, pegals in the undersides of his feet. Articulation on this guy will still be as limited as before. The head rotates all the way around, and the arms rotate, of course, all the way around also as well. And the legs do move forward and back, as always the case when it comes to these Superpowers figures, and there's still only a single hinge in the knee. I think with the original Superpowers Aquaman, it may have been the case, and I never had the original figure, that you just squeeze the arms together. I think, in fact, his legs would move back and forth. If you ever had the original toy, you can let me know down below in the comment section. But you know what? I like the look of this Aquaman. He sort of has weird things going on with his limbs that for one reason or another are completely different than his lower groin and, again, his torso. I'm not really sure why they opted to do the changes that they did. But though, when you're looking at it, it makes for a really nice looking Aquaman when you have him on display. And of course, we can also bring back in the other Superpowers figures we've already had a look at. There's Batman on the one side, there's Robin then on the other. The one thing I also really like about this wave is that Aquaman's going to get himself a bad guy. Yes, we are going to be looking at Black Manta. A classic costume Black Manta to boot as well. So I'm really looking forward to getting a look at the Black Manta in an upcoming review. But I think overall, I really like the look of Aquaman. Maybe, I would have preferred a shorter-haired style for Aquaman, but of course he does change his looks out. Thank our blessings that the fact the figure doesn't come included with a hook hand. That was one look to Aquaman I never really liked. But going back to the traditional classic colors that he has in the classic suit of the scaly orange top and the lower green leggings, that's Aquaman for me. I really like the way that this one turned out from McFarlane's team. What I might just end up doing when it comes to displaying Aquaman is clearly is the case that he does have the flat hand, sort of looking like he's supposed to be swimming in the waters. You're not really going to be able to pull that off successfully by having the figure standing like this on your shelf. So what I might just end up doing, even though one wasn't actually included with the figures, might take myself sort of a clear stand. Maybe not a flight stand that came included with the DC Multiverse figures, but I might actually just get myself something that's clear that I can kind of have the figure resting on top of. Sure, it would have been nice that the figure could have come included with some sort of flight stand or some sort of stand to make him look at least like he's swimming. But even to be fair, if you date back to what this line's supposed to be based from, the original Kenner's 80 retro Superpowers figure line, none of those figures also had anything in the way of display stands. They were quite bare bones, really, when you think about it. Yeah, they did come included with accessories, but they didn't come with any other standing things to go along with the figures. And of course, keep in mind as well, the original figures would have relied so very heavily on a gimmick, something that unfortunately has been removed altogether with the new modern Superpowers figures that we get from McFarlane's team. I mean, in one way, I do miss the fact that there is no gimmick featured on these figures. But really, when you have the figures displayed on the shelf, you're really, unless you're going up to them regularly and squeezing the legs or squeezing the arms, you're never really going to notice that the gimmick was there, or in this case, missing in the first place. What do you guys think of Aquaman? Let me know down below in the comments section, and of the figures in this wave, who would you say is your favorite? Now, of course, that's pretty easy to say that so far. We've only looked at 3 figures, at least from a channel standpoint. We are still going to be looking at a slightly different repainted Wonder Woman And the one I'm really looking forward to, we are also going to be looking at Black Manta, which I can tell you from a fan of being Black Mantas, loving Black Manta, that guy's going to sit pretty high on my list of the favorite figures from this wave. Of course, to make sure that you're not missing out on any of the future Superpowers reviews, make sure if you like, first of all, this review, why not throw it a like? But the more important thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and that you're also turning on the bell notification, because we, of course, are going to be looking at Black Manta, we are going to be looking at Wonder Woman, and to go along with that, we will be looking at the vehicles that are part of this wave as well. That is a more modern take on the Batmobile and the invisible jet that goes along with Wonder Woman. So lots of videos coming your way, guys. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.